Healthy eating is about balance, variety, and mindfulness. But what does that look like on a daily basis? What's the difference between popular fad diets and healthy eating? The best science indicates that people should consider their total dietary pattern instead of focusing on any particular good or bad foods. These qualities separate healthy eating from fad diets, which may not work or work for very long for most people. The latest nutrition research presented in an American Heart Association guideline provides a roadmap for healthy eating. The same directions, balance, variety, mindfulness, are relevant whether you're cooking at home, eating prepared meals, or dining out. And how you eat matters over the course of a lifetime. The way you eat as a child can influence later choices and future health. Dr. Christopher Gustafson has been studying the health benefits of different eating patterns for 20 years. He spearheaded an American Heart Association scientific statement that assessed how some popular diet plans match up against the best evidence about healthy eating. When you're counseling somebody on how to eat healthier, what are the first words out of your mouth?
The first words out of my mouth are minimally processed foods and dietary fiber. I think both of those are sort of good shorthand ways to identify foods that are typically going to be quite healthy and provide a lot of nutritional benefits to the eater of those foods.
So what is your top line advice about healthy eating patterns as understood in the latest research?
Diets that have a lot of fruits and vegetables in them, that rely on a lot of whole grains for grain-based products, those I think have the most significant bodies of scientific evidence suggesting that they're going to be a good choice for people to eat. So things like the Mediterranean diet, the DASH diet, those all contain those elements that I mentioned. They're typically based on minimally processed foods. They've got a lot of dietary fiber. They're going to help people get the nutrition that they need and not overconsume nutrients or foods that can lead to problems down the road.
What distinguishes scientifically sound plans such as the Mediterranean diet or DASH diet from other popular diets?
Those diets have a lot of evidence that they provide health benefits, that they're going to allow people who consume those dietary patterns on a regular, repeated basis to live healthy lives. Popular diets frequently tend to spring up from an idea that might be intellectually attractive. For instance, the idea that for much of human evolution, we were not consuming the products of agriculture or domesticated animal production, but were hunter-gatherers and using that as a basis for developing a diet. But just because it's intellectually satisfying to hear that story, it doesn't mean that it's actually going to provide the nutritional benefits that we need. Relying on evidence, scientific evidence, to document the patterns that promote health most effectively is going to be the way to choose a diet that's going to help you as an individual live a healthy life.
Millions of people living in the United States are looking to eat healthier and lose weight. A multi-billion-dollar industry has developed in response, for better or worse. Do you think people are overwhelmed by misinformation or incomplete information because of all of that hype?
I think it's understandable. There's so much that we have to deal with all the time in our everyday lives that most people aren't going to have the time or resources available to go and do their own research. And so if they're receiving information from whatever source that this is going to help them lose weight or be healthier in whatever way is important to them, I think that's going to probably carry a lot of weight in drawing their attention to those diets. You know, maybe there needs to be a Mediterranean diet advertising board or DASH diet advertising group to try to sell the benefits of those diets as well, because there aren't the dollars behind those scientifically documented healthy eating patterns to really promote those. If you've got millions of dollars pushing a particular solution, that's going to get in front of people's eyes more frequently. And so when they're thinking about what to do, when they're ready to take the step to try to improve their health or lose weight, they're probably cognitively going to go to the one that they've seen most frequently and maybe in a context that's most appealing or convincing.
How can scientists and healthcare professionals best respond to this misinformation?
There is research out there showing that when you provide people with objective information about nutrition, that at least in an experimental setting, that will impact their beliefs about nutritional attributes of the food products and lead them to make healthier choices. In some of my own research that's not necessarily about fad diets versus non-fad diets, there seems to be a lot of evidence that, at least for many people, health doesn't really enter the equation when they're making food choices. So potentially using technology to remind people when they're at the point of decision to make healthier choices may be a way to redirect their attention to health attributes of foods as they're getting ready to make those choices. And in our research, that has been shown to help people make healthier choices in complex food choice environments. A simpler option is to make a meal plan before you go to the grocery store and write down the foods that you need to adhere to that meal plan. If you set aside time to do that, that gives you the space to think about health and to really consider the foods that you're going to be consuming, rather than waiting until you get to the grocery store and then going off of what sounds good at that moment.
Give us some ideas about ways to help put Americans on a healthier path.
The complexity of retail food environments that people face is potentially a big barrier to healthy eating patterns. If you go to a typical grocery store and go and look at the cereal aisle, there are frequently 200 or more unique boxes of cereal that you can choose from. That pattern is repeated lots of places throughout the stores. And so nobody is going to go and compare the nutritional information of every option that's available to them, because you just don't have time to look at all of those. To deal with all of that choice, people are going to narrow their attention to a subset of products. Then the typical approaches that we've relied on a large scale in this country, like providing objective nutrition information via nutrition facts panels, people won't see a difference in the products they're looking at. So I think one thing is to try to disrupt habitual decision patterns in the retail environment. Instead of hoping that people will broadly look at food products and compare nutrition information among all of them, reminding people to think about health before they narrow their choices down may be a way to get them to integrate health attributes in the decision process at an earlier stage and broaden their attention beyond the narrow subset of products that they would typically take a look at.
Thank you so very much. We really appreciate you joining us, Dr. Gustafson, and sharing these insights about what might seem really easy and yet is really quite complex. Thank you so much for making it simpler for all of us.
Thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to talk about these important issues.
Healthy eating looks like this: balancing calorie intake with physical activity, eating plenty of fruits and vegetables, preferring whole grains, choosing lean proteins over processed meats, and avoiding added sugars and too much salt. If you have questions about health conditions, I would love to hear from you. Comment below, hit subscribe, and join me here next time for Answers You Can Trust.